Hey guys, welcome to Comics Pull List, the show where we discuss some of the biggest new comics to come out this month. This episode will be reviewing the beginning to a new story arc in Detective Comics number 983, Captain America number 1, and the follow-up to the Bat Wedding in Batman number 51. Remember to show some support to the creative teams behind the books, and pick them up at your local comic shop, Comixology, or through the links below on Amazon. Don't forget to click that like button, subscribe to the channel for more content, and hit that little bell so that you know when our videos go up. Without further ado, let's not waste any more time and get into the books. Detective Comics number 983 by writer Brian Hill and Miguel Mendonça is the start of a new story arc and creative team on the book. It takes place in the aftermath of the previous arc, but it's not needed to jump on from here. Issue number 983 picks up with a young web personality being interviewed by a Gotham news outlet. Darren Griffith is a young YouTuber analog claiming to be Batman's biggest fan. 1 week later with the Signal, Duke Thomas, he's following up on a lead to a kidnapping case. Upon arrival, we see Darren strapped to a chair with a sign reading, "Follow this," ultimately falling into an elaborate trap as a shadowed figure says that he's sorry, but Duke is making him weaker. With trigger in hand, he detonates the building and Duke falls to the street below. Back in the Batcave, Bruce takes the attack on his family personally, deciding that maybe it's time to change the course of things. After Duke's operation, Bruce meets Martian Manhunter outside the manor to tell the League that he's moving forward with his team initiative, which we later learn to be a potential rekindling of the covert outsider team. Unlike in years past, Batman makes it known that he wants the League to be aware of his new team. However, they must remain outside of its operations. We pick up with Black Lightning Jefferson Pierce and his civilian job as a principal, hiring on a new teacher. He emphasizes certain qualities that are required of an educator and parallel that to which is required of a hero. As the dialogue ensues, we pull into current day as Black Lightning is looking to prevent a murder in a hostage situation. Hill expertly analogizes the dialogue to Black Lightning's current situation, in saying that the odds are against him and that he's the safety net for the high risks. It's kind of one of those things that you have to read yourself to really enjoy. Following the hostage situation, Jefferson returns home to Batman lurking in the shadows. Batman makes a point of saying that Jefferson is looking for a pathway to accomplish what his heart tells him that he needs to do, and that he can provide him with one by joining him in Gotham. He suggests that Black Lightning can become a guiding force for the team he's looking to build. Jefferson cites his shortcomings, but Batman stops him dead, saying that he doesn't need someone who always succeeds, but rather a man who knows when they've failed. Back in Gotham, Alfred manages to uncover a flash drive embedded in Duke's injuries. On the drive, an audio file from the perpetrator plays saying that Batman has lost his edge in recent years, citing his acceptance of others into his operation as cheapening his symbol and dismantling his own creation. In an attempt to bring Batman back to glory, the villain whom we learn to be called Karma seeks to assassinate the members of the Bat family, one by one, moving on to orphan Cassandra Cain as the issue closes. All in all, I really enjoyed this issue of Detective Comics. It's clear to me that Brian Hill is aiming to deliver some interesting concepts into the Batman mythos. My only gripe is that the villain's motivation seems very similar to the Joker's in Scott Snyder's Death of the Family story arc. Seeing as it's the first issue of the arc, I'll save the judgment for that until we delve further into the story. Overall, the comic does really well at grabbing the reader's attention from the beginning, and what I felt was a fantastic job at capturing the characters' voices, especially for a first outing in writing them. Visually, the book was also really stunning, with art by Miguel Mendonça. Using a lot of heavily shaded areas really provided depth to the images and to the cityscape of Gotham. Whether it be by the hand of editorial or not, I really like the inclusion of Black Lightning and the nod to the outsiders. The juxtaposition of Jefferson's life as a teacher to that of a superhero was something really unique to this story, making this book a standout for me this week. I'd give Detective number 983 a well-deserved 9 out of 10. Really solid from start to finish, with only slight nitpicking problems here and there. With that being said, this is the first issue of the arc, so you guys should definitely go pick this one up and read it for yourself. You can pick this issue up from your local comic book shop, or the link in the description below will take you to Amazon or Comixology to grab a physical or digital copy. I can't wait for part 2 of this great story coming out this week. Captain America #1 by decorated writer Ta-Nehisi Coates and Leinil Francis Yu sets out to return Cap to form after the events of Secret Empire, while also tackling concepts that challenge him in new ways. As a fan of Coates' Black Panther work for Marvel, and of Captain America, picking up this first issue is a no-brainer. With that being said, let's get into the book. In the aftermath of Secret Empire, a mysterious blonde woman is being transported by what remains of Russian Hydra loyalists. Although the main forces of Hydra were stomped out by the Avengers, small sects still remain spread throughout the world. That said, the convoy comes under attack by a masked figure in the distance. If history has taught us anything, it's never a good idea to invade Russia in the winter. The masked figure, we soon learn, has come to break out the blonde scientist from the convoy, and is revealed to be the former head of the Mutant Hellfire Club, Selene. Back in the United States, ravenous clones of the villain Nuke are shooting up a peaceful protest at the National Mall in DC. As the chaos ensues, the internal monologue of Captain America debates the politics of an official story versus what actually happens. The Nukes hold grudges against the protesters due to their lack of loyalty to the American troops, resulting in mass slaughter. Nevertheless, Cap decides that a soldier shouldn't remain loyal to anything except the dream, and steps in to stop the madness. After getting their attention, he gives the clones a final chance to drop their weapons, while his failsafe sits atop a nearby roof with his targets in the crosshairs. Before re-engaging with the clones, Steve actually expresses remorse for what's about to come, as the original Nuke had always shown him respect in some ways. The violent and unprincipled madmen contrast that of the original Frank Simpson, and open fire on Cap, demonizing Steve for his failure to protect the US from Hydra during Secret Empire. With the help of the Winter Soldier Bucky Barnes and an airborne Sharon Carter, Cap is able to win the day and defeat the Nukes. Cap, along with the reader, soon learns that the new shieldless US government has not only given Sharon and Bucky pardons for their help in fighting Hydra, but also former Red Hulk, General Thunderbolt Ross as well. We soon learn that Ross had led a small resistance against the Hydra dictatorship during the events of Secret Empire. The desperate reassembled US government has pardoned all those they think may be of assistance, and with Ross's experience, they found him to be a prime candidate. Later that night, Sharon and Steve go out for dinner recounting the damage done to them by Hydra Captain America. Steve feels that it's his responsibility to clear his name to the public and to protect them, while Sharon tries to convince him that it's not his problem, now that Hydra is supposedly dismantled. She fears that Steve no longer feels the same way about her, and is only using her for intelligence on US activity. Having been tricked by Hydra Cap, Sharon is driven now more than ever to handle the threats facing the American people. Back in Samara, Russia, Selene and the mysterious doctor emerge from a warp hole, dragging a Hydra operative by the back of his collar. In the presence of thousands of Hydra's victims, Selene grasps the neck of the operative and begins to disintegrate him to pure bone as a show of power. Cap's internal text asks the question, from what and for what do we have freedom for? Having lost their way, he thinks that perhaps freedom gives us a chance to conquer, whether or not we conquer ourselves or the threats that face us. As the issue closes, Selene addresses the crowd, declaring that Hydra is dead, and that the future belongs to them. The beginning to Ta-Nehisi Coates' Captain America was absolutely stellar from cover to cover. Unlike other recent writers, Coates embraces the effects of Secret Empire and how it impacts the continuity at large. He identifies Cap's voice and his nature as a character, but moves it in a direction to make it his own. Coates also really shows off his understanding of Cap between the really great character interactions and the thought-provoking internal monologues. In this issue, Ta-Nehisi Coates as Captain America tackle quite a few topical issues without taking a political side, but rather a humanitarian one. He demonstrates the conflict of political spin on stories and how setting certain appearances can compromise the decision-making of many. Captain America #1 provides heart-racing action and drama amongst a lot of other elements as well. The art by Leinil Francis Yu really helps to drive home the message set forth by the script and is nothing to ignore. Whether it be the heartfelt moments or crazy action, there's no denying how beautiful this book is. I'm so glad I decided to pick this up and give it a 9.5 out of 10. All I can say is that this delivers everything you could want from a Cap book. Go get this book for yourself at your local comic book shop or through the links below on Amazon. I cannot wait to continue reading this series. Rounding up this week's episode, we have Batman 51 by Tom King and artist Lee Weeks. This issue takes place a few weeks after the Bat Wedding blowout, If you haven't read the issue for yourself, you can click the link here to check out our video on it. Alright, with that out of the way, let's jump right into the issue. Batman number 51 picks up with Bruce doing his civic duty as a citizen of Gotham, sitting in as a juror in a court case. The case in question revolves around a triple homicide which Mr. Freeze is currently on trial for. In a very Tom King fashion, the narrative is constantly shifting between Bruce in the present day and Bruce beating the cold out of Mr. Freeze sometime in the recent past. In the trial, the defense lawyer questions whether or not Bruce can be impartial due to his known affiliations with Batman, having publicly funded him during the Batman Incorporated program. The prosecution argues that at this point Batman has saved nearly everyone in the city, or someone they know from something, shooting the defense's arguments down. Later that night, Gordon illuminates the bat signal over the city. However, having been sequestered for the trial, Bruce is unable to appear. Across from Gordon, someone else has donned the cape and cowl for the evening in order to keep Gotham safe. We soon learn that Dick Grayson, Nightwing, and for a short time Batman, is back under the mask for the time being. As the trial of Mr. Freeze continues, the defense vocalizes that none of the evidence pointing the murders in Freeze's direction was uncovered by the GCPD, and that all the city coroner was able to learn was that the women had merely suffered from random blood clots, causing them to die from natural causes. The camera pans, revealing Commissioner Gordon on the stand being questioned by the defense. The defense lawyer actually corners Gordon here, saying that any leading point to Mr. Freeze was discovered by Batman, who is unlicensed to perform autopsies on behalf of the GCPD. So even though the forensics confirmed that what Batman found was in fact true, and the temperature of the victim's brainstems were abnormally low, Batman's involvement may be used against Freeze's conviction. At recess for the trial, Bruce sits in with the other jurors as they discuss a couple's quarrel. He excuses himself to the bathroom and proceeds to throw a urinal at the wall. Okay, I'm genuinely curious how he gets out of this one without people questioning how he ripped a urinal out of the wall and proceeded to throw it across the room. Anyway, it provides solid insight to how Bruce is dealing with the results of Selina leaving him at the altar. I think it's moreover Tom King's way of showing us how he thinks an emotionally stunted man would deal with sadness, but to be honest, it's kinda relatable. Now back with the actual trial, things get a little complicated. Mr. Freeze takes to the stand, saying that he's only confessed to Batman because he was being beaten within an inch of his life. For fear of losing his life, Freeze tells Batman what he wants to hear. Having been under duress, likewise a confession made to a vigilante means diddly shit in the eyes of the court. Fortunately for Batman, the jury doesn't believe a word from Freeze, and advocate that the Dark Knight has done nothing but save the people of Gotham from villains like Freeze. As it seems, they've come to a clear decision and move into an initial vote. There's still one hand that raises to advocate for Freeze's innocence, Bruce Wayne's. So that's pretty much the ending of Batman 51. Overall, this is the first issue of Batman I've enjoyed in quite a while. Bruce's affiliations and any problem that might pose in court were well planned out, so thumbs up to you, Tom King. However, I will say that with the defense pointing out that Batman's involvement with the case makes evidence null and void, shouldn't literally every other case Batman ever solved be dealt with the same way? It's just convenient for the plot that it happens right now. King kinda pulls a small bandage on it, alluding to the fact that the general public of Gotham admire Batman for his services to the city, causing most jurors to give him a hard pass when it comes to convicting criminals he's caught. It's definitely an attempt at covering up the tracks, but if it were to happen just about every time, you'd think most defense lawyers would just drop any notion of Batman's findings not being valid. I like the less abrasive insight to how Bruce is dealing with the fallout of issue 50, and when it comes to his confrontation with Freeze, it's possible that he might have let his emotions get the best of him. There's also the fact that he broke a urinal, but let's not talk about that. The artwork in this issue was absolutely stunning by Lee Weeks. Honestly, the two things that kept me interested in picking up this issue were the artist and Mr. Freeze being present in the story. The colors by Elizabeth Breitweiser also deserve a shout out. They really propelled Weeks' art and set the tone throughout the book. This issue of Batman was actually pretty decent, sitting at a 7.5 out of 10. The outlying theme of Bruce's emotional turmoil through the lens of Mr. Freeze's trial is pretty interesting. I can't take that away from it. But there are some logistical kinks to the book that Tom King in part addresses, but doesn't 100% fix. I feel like King is going to drag the payoff to the wedding throughout a few issues, so let's see where this goes. Alright guys, that's it for today's episode of Comics Pull List. I hope you all enjoyed it and thank you for watching. Let me know what you thought of the books we discussed in this episode. If you want to read them for yourself, the links to grab them on Amazon will be in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, comment, and share the video to help us grow. To stay updated on all of our content, you can click that bell button or follow us on Twitter. If you have any suggestions for episodes or just want to improve the channel, leave it down in the comments for me. Otherwise, let's just chat comics and all things geek. Catch you guys in the next episode from Dark Knight Nation.